Since I'm not going to be streaming this Sunday, I wanted to give you guys a final video to close out the week. Before we do that, I wanted to address a few comments that came up. A couple of things that I saw. One is the argument that the AI is not capable of using the automatic target tracking and the thermal system on the T-72B3. This is false. If you want to see that in action, look up the video ATGM Demo and Night Attack, both located in this playlist. You'll see the AI make use of both of those systems, so that's a non-factor. The next is brought up that the results of the previous video are invalid or, not really true because the AI is stupid. I'm not going to debate whether the Steel Beast AI is dumb or is not in this video because that's way too complex to really cram in here. I will say that the AI does exactly what you tell it to do. And what I would say in that regard is that oftentimes I find that complaints about the AI being dumb or not realistic or whatever stems down to the user not fully understanding how the AI actually works. And a quick way to test yourself on your knowledge is right now, can you identify the difference between an engage and an assault tactic and what that tells the AI to do and how they'll perform? And I'd say if you can't, then you should read the manual, look at page 112 through 121, and having that knowledge is going to infinitely increase your enjoyment of this game because you now will understand what the AI is doing when you tell them to engage versus telling them to assault. Regardless, we're going to assume for a moment that if the AI is stupid, and that is a true statement, then what that means is that both the attacker and the defender are equally stupid. And therefore, if you have two dummies fighting it out and they're of equally low intelligence, then that's not a factor because they're both idiots. So there we go. All right, next one, eSIM is bias. Again, you can think what you want to think. What I would suggest to you is that eSIM's primary means of income is selling simulations-based training solutions to a variety of defense customers located throughout the world. They're going to model their software based on customer input, and from the customer perspective, realistic conditions in training are literally going to save lives, right? There's an old saying, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. So with that in mind, if it's in your best interest to present simulation results that are plausible to what will occur in the real world, then one, you as a customer are going to provide data to the company building it that supports that, and you as the company, in this case eSIM, are going to model those in a manner to which you're giving somewhat plausible results to the real world. I'm not saying every single thing about Steel Beast is 100% accurate. Obviously, that's not true because at the end of the day, it is a computer game, but it is valuable for training and it does give plausible results. Okay, finally, right, looking at this from a doctrinal standpoint, this is really meant as a microcosm depicting Tank A versus Tank B in an area to where you've got a real lack of factors that are going to affect the capabilities and limitations of the tanks in question. So from the defender side, the defenders being a platoon of M1A2 set out in the open, their defensive plan is stupid. I would never do this in real life. There's no preparation, there's no engineering efforts, there's no artillery support, etc. Meanwhile, from the attacker side, in this case, a company of 10 T-72 Bravo 3s, there is no setting of conditions prior to their attack to enable them to have greater success in seizing Objective Stalin. All right, with that out of the way, what we're looking at here is using exactly the same tactics as last time. So 1st and 2nd platoon, along with the commander, are going to maneuver towards the north of this corridor, laying down a base of fire to fix the enemy platoon onto the objective, enabling 3rd platoon to maneuver through this canyon right here, get into position up close, and then begin laying down another base of fire. Bottom line, attack by fire, kill the enemy, advance onto the objective. The enemy has 1 platoon of M1A2s. They're in the open. They're going to shoot enemy elements to prevent them from being able to breach through the central passage located right here. All right, the main differences here are equipment, and there's two things. One is that the T-72B3 does have a bit more protection for the crew if you remove all of the ammunition from the stowage, so you only have it in the carousel. I did that. I played it before. There is a difference on the number of tanks that explode and throw their turrets off, admittedly, but the actual end results weren't different in the long run. You largely saw the same as the previous video, so I'm not going to be showcasing that because it's not really anything new. The main difference that we did here is right here, put an automatic, or excuse me, a APS system, in this case the AVEPS, right, active protection system, loaded that onto the T-72B3, and in the previous video I talked about the T-72B3's main vulnerability being its survivability. We now have an off-the-shelf bolted-on solution that directly addresses this. So, as before, I'd invite all of you to pause the video, go ahead and put your predictions down in the comments on what you think the losses are going to be for both our attacker, our T-72B3s, as well as the defender, the M1A2s. So as before, I'm going to go into a more cinematic view here, using the mission editor, and like before, same scheme maneuver, moving forward, having the smoke launchers, or excuse me, smoke generators on to throw off the laser rangefinder results from the M1A2s. Over here, we've got 3rd Platoon maneuvering through this passage, ultimately trying to close the distance with those M1A2s and ultimately surprise them from, well, as much of a flank as the terrain is able to present. We'll continue to observe, and we'll come back when something starts to occur. Alright, we've made initial contact with enemy tanks located to the north. Got our 2nd Platoon taking fire. We'll go ahead and move into them. So, AVEPS is activating. You can kind of see those from the explosions there. And what this is ultimately doing is detonating in front of those Sabo rounds and giving a countercharge to attempt to decrease the effectiveness of those Sabo rounds on the T-72. Basically being hit more with fragments than with the actual full impact of the round. Alright, moving into position here, continuing to move forward. Got 1st Platoon getting onto line. Lost our 1st tank. Catastrophic kill. Imagine it's right there. That's being reported. 3rd Platoon starting to get into range and is starting to lay down a base of fire on the M1A2s right there. We're now at 2 vehicles being destroyed. 1 M1A2 destroyed. Move in with 3rd Platoon. Move over to the defenders here, and they are getting absolutely hammered. We're now down to 3 M1A2s destroyed, and we've got our T-72B3s continuing to advance and continuing to lay down a massive amount of direct fire on that one surviving M1A2. And at this point, we're just waiting. Yep, there they go. They're destroyed. So, as we can see, dramatically different results than what we experienced firsthand. And really, what we can say here is that active protection, in this case, is a huge advantage when mounted to an older tank of this sort, right? So, it's very hard to upgrade the actual armor, but giving some sort of bolt-on system that's able to provide additional survivability is going to absolutely pay dividends. So what we're looking at here overall as far as damage is 2 catastrophic kills on the attacker side and 4 catastrophic kills as far as the M1A2s down here located to the south. I've run the simulation prior to this recording 4 times, and ultimately this is remarkably similar to what we got before. Ultimately, we're looking at an average on those others of losing 1 to catastrophic kill and about 1 to an operational kill. Operational kill being that the vehicle, while not a burning wreck, is no longer able to be used for the remainder of this operation. And that's typically damage such as fuel leaks, engines being destroyed, turrets being destroyed, etc. Now we've got the company moving into position and able to, from there, move on to Objective Stalin and pass a follow-on element through. So again, leave a comment in the bottom. Did this go how you think it did? Was it dramatically different from your estimate? I don't know. But I hope this was certainly eye-opening, at least from a Steel Beast perspective, on how the types of equipment that you have added on to your vehicle can make a dramatic difference in how they perform on the battlefield. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it, and happy beasting.